INTPs. They have low extroversion, low agreeableness, low conscientiousness, and sometimes high openness to experience. And I say sometimes because if you go to a personality database and search for INTPs in the polls section, you get some profiles like being an atheist, being a boring person, supporting the return of Hitler, and being schizophrenic. Those, and many others, are the main reasons for why INTPs are more likely to play Minecraft. To being virgins. Therefore, INTPs are probably the least susceptible type to reproduce themselves, at least in conventional ways. But why can INTPs get laid? If we look at INTP functions, we'll see he's both thinking and intuition as dominant psychological types. And as proposed by MacLean Troyan Brain, thinking is a function more associated with the prefrontal cortex because it's the area more responsible for rational thought, decision-making, complex problem-solving, modulation of behavioral responses, goal setting, and, my favorites, inhibition of emotional and impulsive behavior. You see, what this means is that if you use too much of your prefrontal cortex, you're probably less likely to use other parts of your brain, like the instinctual one, to gather sensorial information from both your body and your surroundings, and the limbic one, that modulates those sensorial data into memory and emotional reactions that you can have towards these responses that you're getting. The prefrontal cortex is also sometimes very associated with intuition because of its ability to just cease the processing of sensorial stimuli and focusing only on what's inside the brain itself. Doing that is also what makes Sherlock's ability to have a mind palace, and also what makes autistic children don't hear their parents' voices when they are called. Carl Jung in his book Psychological Types says that when you have a type or a function, the psyche will probably inhibit his opposite type because one is very unlikely to influence the other. It's like a balance or a compensation. If you use too much of your intuition, you cut off your sensation. And if you use too much of your thinking, you probably cut off much of your feelings as well. And INTPs seems to do just that. Throughout his books, Jung also used the term libido a lot, a term which derives from Sigmund Freud, who, even though used it as a sexual term for most of his life, for Jung, the libido was actually a sort of psychic energy that influenced our many behaviors. So the libido will be something like Nietzsche's will to power, Marx's force of labor, Schopenhauer's will, the energy of physics, and so on. It's a sort of natural power in the human mind that starts and transforms most actions. And today, we could call the libido the chemical and electrical synapses of the brain as well. For example, the ones that occur in the dopaminergic system of the basal ganglia that are very associated with extroversion, a personality trait that tends to be very low on INTPs. We could also make the hypothesis that if INTPs use too much of these upper parts of the brain when processing information, we could also explain the lack of use of those lower ones, as Jung put it. Even though Freud believed the libido was purely or mostly sexual, he also said that each person could give different meanings for his libido, which were called the defense mechanisms. For example, condensation is the ability to put the libido in other things that are not specifically oriented to sex, like being an artist. So instead of dealing with those emotions and instincts, the person just puts them on painting or drawing and dissipates his libido so he can go to other activities. Rationalization is the ability to believe that everything needs an explanation. Sometimes, people will give bad reasons for doing bad things, like, well, I'd rather spend my time alone, or people are so loud, I hate everyone, they all want to take something from me. When actually, this person just probably doesn't have the social abilities and have social anxiety, so she gives some sort of excuse instead of dealing with her real problems. In modern psychology, this is a very common thing to say, especially on people with social phobia. And for those people, many psychotherapists use exposure behavior therapy, which the goal is to expose this person to the things she avoids the most so she gets better on dealing with them. It's like saying that if you want to overcome something, you need to expose yourself to that something you're avoiding first. The word pharmakon from the Greek means both medicine and poison. If you have social anxiety, your poison is probably having to talk to people. But to overcome the social anxiety and lack of sociability of yours, the only way to do that is exactly by exposing yourself to other people and to conversations with them. So as the things you most want or need are in the places where you least want to look at, is what psychologist Jordan Peterson says, and also what Carl Jung when he talks about the shadow. The shadow for INTPs is the extroverted feeling. So instead of just rationalizing internally his thoughts, it's about externalizing your emotions. When you look at INTPs in real life that seems to have much success, like PewDiePie, Most Critical, or even Abraham Lincoln, those seems to be masters of their shadow function. For both PewDiePie and Charles, they have this ability to create a community, even though themselves seems to be very reclusive to social things. PewDiePie, for example, was a disaster on interviews, but on the internet, he used to scream and put his emotions in the external instead of just inhibiting and internalizing them, which made many people like him because of that. Charles, on the other hand, used to talk about his ridiculous social interactions, clearly demonstrating his lack of them, but also in a way that other people could relate to that as well. Abraham Lincoln was very known for his public speeches, his sense of fairness and justice, and his abilities for diplomacy and negotiation. He was very skilled socially and became not only one of the best INTPs, but also one of the best American presidents of all time. I could also say about Toby Fox, the creator of Undertale, a game which the major cause of its success is not only the good production and the good story that it has, but also especially because of the community that surrounded this game. If it weren't for that, Undertale would probably just be like any other indie game. So for Jung, the process of individuation is all about that. To use what seems to be your weakness of sort and to integrate it into a strength of your character. For INTPs, it will be all about exposing yourself and exposing your emotions externally, being through art, through videos, through the internet, and so on, and trying to be integrated or even to create your own group of people, your own community, your own social group. In behavioral therapy, the only thing that helps people to overcome traumas is not by reducing their fears, but to increasing their courage and to advance in the things they used to fear. So, what is your shadow function? What are you avoiding? And what can you do about that? In the next video, we'll talk about how to become a millionaire using Karl Marx's theories while also being an ISFP. If you want to know more about psychology and the things I've talked about here today, you can buy my book on Amazon and help me keep making videos like this. The Self Therapy is a book where I put both modern and analytical psychology, using scientific articles to explain many of the concepts talked about Jung, Freud, and even philosophers like Nietzsche. I'm really proud of this book, and if you want to buy it, well, you will really help me save money and take a master's degree to Germany, which will be a dream of mine as well. So that's it. See you in the next video. Goodbye.